Hello, iCCup YouTube. It's Lord Lockar, and yet again,
It's Blaqk.
yay, and with another yet again Dawn of War 2 replay, featuring this time Pega as the face commander. Oh, sorry, force commander, and Smaet as the mech boy on
hmm
Green Tooth Gorge. Any thoughts coming into this match, Blaqk?
Um, just a bit of background on these players. Both Pega and Smaet are top 20 on the leaderboards right now. Pega's been known for his unique Tier 1 heavy play all throughout the history of Dawn of War 2 as a game. I don't know as much about Smaet, but I'm sure that as long as we've got Pega in the game, we're going to be seeing a ridiculous build that's somehow going to be pulled off viably. So I'm looking forward to that. Although I am slightly disappointed with the generic color scheme. It makes me sad.
Indeed, Blood Ravens are no Space Marines. Anyway, uh,
Ooh, another important note. Smate has a red color scheme, so all of his vehicles will be going faster. This is going to be a decided advantage in Tier 2.
Indeed, and the red ones go faster. Anyway, yeah, let's unpause in 5. Wait, no, you do the countdown, sir. I don't do countdowns. That's silly. I'm
Oh,
Lord
it's
Lockar.
above you. Or below you?
It's
Below
below
you.
me. What are you talking about?
Oh, anyways. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, unpause.
Oh,
6,
that was a quick
7,
countdown.
8.
Hmm.
And immediately we have a Scout Marine squad coming out for Pega. And interestingly enough, his Scout squad is just heading straight out into the middle of the map, not heading for any of the points you usually see your starting squad going for. Usually you want to, depending on your strategy, go for either the power, the VPs, or requisition. But Pega's going to go shoot things with it instead.
Indeed,
Um,
scouts move very fast, and they're excellent for harassing very early in the game. 6.5 speed to be exact, which is as fast as the Ravener Alpha, which is one of the if not fastest heroes in the game. And with these 3 scouts, he's going to be able to cap a lot of things. He's focusing Wreck over power because, as you'll see, his build doesn't really need any power and too much power in tier 1 early on at least.
Yep. And because of just that simple move of sending that scout to his opponent's natural power, he drew the mech boy away from whatever Smate wanted to do with his capping order, which is actually a huge win. So Pega's playing a very pressure-oriented tier 1 that's really forcing Smate to react to him.
Meanwhile, he has scouts just capping up requisition points. He's getting that power now. And his force commander is just going to be used to harass. It's something he loves to do. He loves to send out his force commander very early into the game and use it as a harasser, which a lot of players just keep his force commander close to his army, but Pega makes him into a tanking beast.
And why not? You saw how effectively there he was able to tie up, what was it, 2 squads and a hero for a while just to force him off.
Yeah.
And that's allowed Pega to, despite the fact that he didn't cap anything with his starting squad, cap up his side of the map and have these scouts just floating everywhere. Meanwhile, we've got a tactical marine squad coming out, so he's going to be able to stand up in some of these heavier fights. And yeah, scout squad forced off, scouts harassing the right. One of the hallmarks of Pega's style of play is just this 3x scout into whatever T1 units he wants to build. Um, and that allows for, with a high degree of micro, just constant pressure and map control.
And we see the big shoe is starting to come out. That's going to cause a lot of problems for the scouts, especially the DPS output. But this map has a lot of buildings, and Pega, we see right now, Pega is not afraid to use the buildings against the shooter boys. And really, you need the sluggers with the flamers to counter that. Sluggers get smacked down by the tacticals. He might lose them 5
6.
HP.
Ah, they barely got out. And they also took a tactical marine model with them, so that came out as a huge win for Smate. Or not as much since the change to make tactical marines cheaper, but still. Getting model losses on those tactical marines is
It's going to give
really,
him
really,
much
really
needed
important.
red and EXP for the for his units.
And we've got a second tactical marine squad coming out for Pega right now. So this is just a very odd build, but I like it a lot. It's
He's already spent 900 rec on just the tacticals alone, and then another 210 times 3, and I failed math, so I'm not gonna even bother with that.
And the reason why he's able to do this is because he hasn't dropped a single power, node, or generator anywhere on the map. So this is just an example of how a well-planned out strategy can really let you push limits within this game. As we see, Smaet's going for something a bit more traditional with just a single slugga, two big shooter, and a full gen farm. He's also responding very well to this high unit count strategy of Pega by getting the Def Gun, which is going to allow his hero to just be extremely annoying, teleporting around, suppressing things.
It's going to be especially useful against scouts that are ninja capping.
And the thing about it is that Pega doesn't really have a quote-unquote hard counter to this right now. He doesn't have ASMs, he doesn't have a Devastator to bodyguard his troops. He's going to need to force off this mech through proper flanking and unit positioning, which is well within his skill range.
Flamer on his tactical marines is going to allow him to deal with the hordes even better, just because of flamer damage and as well as gens, but it gives him shorter range, which is going to be pretty hard to maneuver against big shooters, especially with the aiming was died, which will give suppression pretty much instantly.
And we see here just a nice little flank by these tactical marines. Oh, then there goes the teleport down to suppress them up. At both of these tactical squads are going to be under a little bit of pressure.
Going into the building despite flamers.
Interesting.
But the burners, for whatever reason, decide to go after the other tacticals, which is going to allow them to get off shots and whatnot. And meanwhile, the scouts come in to back them up. And Smaet is forced off, but he's also taking up to tier 2, so he can press that vehicle advantage.
Understood. Yeah, and Smaet's determined here that the best course of action to counter this strategy is pretty minimal investments in tier 1, not even a 4th squad, and just to go straight for tier 2 units. I expect to see a truck or even a death dread would actually do wonders in this situation in tier 2. Meanwhile, Pega's burned down this entire farm, but Smaet's already rebuilding on his other node on the left, as his unupgraded shooter squad is going around capping up the map. It's interesting that even with these 3 scout squads, Pega's still struggling a bit for map control right now. And that's a huge testament to the ability of the not the beamy def gun, but the def gun to just force off units. Meanwhile, the shooters forced off, Tax coming up to recap Pega's natural VP, and the Orcs horde is moving out to cap the map.
Scouts just trying to do the little kiting game a little bit. War truck coming up for Smaet. That's going to allow him to reinforce on the field as well as push a vehicle advantage, but Devastators coming out for Pega. And Devastators can be upgraded to soft counter transport vehicles really well with the advanced targeters. They would have to be tier 2, I believe, to get the last cannon, which would be what they would need to counter walkers, but these Devastators and Scouts dangerously low. 14, 8, 7, 1, dead.
Ooh, squad down.
Squad down. Squad down.
And conventional wisdom would say that Pega is royally screwed right now, because he's still in tier 1, versus a tier 2 opponent who has a vehicle out. However, like you were saying, Lockguard, those improved targeters that we see upgrading now on the Devastator Marines enable the use of Vengeance rounds, which is actually a surprisingly good soft counter, especially to the lower HP vehicles of Orcs.
And you see the Power Sword out on the Force Commander, which will allow him to buff his battle cry damage even more to his battle brothers, which is excellent for this many units. And Pega doesn't even care about the war truck. He's just gonna turn the Devastators around to face the shooters while they get on a
They'll get around to it.
One day.
One day. We just saw that Devastator just doing a little spin dance to force everything on the field off. And we see Vengeance rounds being popped. Please, come on, now would be the time. And there it goes. And you see how it just does that constant slowdown. Oh, but Stick Bomb is coming in. This is an excellent response to Pega depending on those Devastator heavy bolters to force off the War Truck, because if he can constantly disrupt those Devastators with the stick bombers, that War Truck's going to have free reign over all of Pega's troops.
Yeah, now the mech boy is resetting up in a safe distance. Allow him to lay down mass fire on the Force Commander attacks. Attacks retreating. Of course, Pega with the scout control is still, you know, being alive in the VPs. And nice dodge of the stick bombs right there. But he's still forced to retreat since they closed the distance.
Yeah. Pretty ballsy use of stick bombers. I know a lot of Orc players complain about how they bleed a lot and how they're very weak in melee, but we just saw them wreck a Force Commander and a tactical squad with mech boy support, and just really, really nice use of stick bombers there. Although they are going to get lit up right now and cut down.
Pop vengeance rounds for that one.
Yeah, why not? Well, the obvious reason why not is because you want to save it for the vehicle, but Pega doesn't care.
Slugger boys have the knob on them that's going to allow them to use recklessness, which allows them to break suppression and receive less range damage, which is again another great counter to this really heavy ranged force of Pega, especially with the two Devastators. And finally, Pega, our wonderful Pega, is going tier 2.
Yeah, only a few minutes behind his opponent, NBD. And he, Smaet also has a Storm Boy squad coming out. You see how Smaet's mind is working right now. He's basically thinking that if he can counter these two Devastator squads, he's won the game. Because he thinks that that War Truck is going to give him enough of an advantage against Pega's very, very tier 1 heavy force composition that he won't really be able to stop him. And it's working decently well so far. He's got a significant VP lead from 420 to 377 with two VPs capped and Pega counting down.
We're seeing a shift in Pega's playstyle. Before he would try to stick it out for battles, but now it seems like he's just retreating at the first sign of trouble if he thinks he can't handle the forces, because with that War Truck there, you can't take any unnecessary lobby losses at all, or he's going to be in a lot of trouble, especially with this upkeep. He has 209 requisition income, even with 2 of his points fully mature, just because of the population cost, 67 already just from playing tier 1. So he's going to be forced to retreat often. He's going to retreat often just to make sure that he doesn't lose any of his forces. And now that he's tier 2, I'm interested to see what he's going to whip out.
We've got Iron Halo going down on the Force Commander. This is going to be a nice choice. Dirt cheap, only 20 power. And it's going to allow him to pop an energy shield, which is going to just make him extremely tanky. Storm Boys coming in on the Tactical Marines, forcing them off near the natural VP. And the Storm Boys are just going to ignore the Scout Squad. Although it is upgrading with Mech Boy coming in to suppress and push them off.
Slug is trying to flank, caught by the Devastator. There's the recklessness. Now they're going to be able to charge the Devastator and do a massive damage, but the Force Commander is there to provide some battle cry assistance and knockback to allow them to get away, or not battle cry, my bad. Knob dead. Force Commander went straight for the knob, apparently.
He's got a beef to pick, man. And meanwhile, during that engagement, we saw Pega smartly respond to the pressure on his natural VP by putting the Devastator in that building. However, unfortunately for him, there were some stick bombers waiting there, and that's a Gibbs squad.
Indeed, and we don't really see many stick bombs, but on this map, especially with this many buildings against Space Marines, they must be useful, obviously.
Very useful, very useful. I mean, we see another good stick bomb hit right there. They may not be causing casualties, but those tactical marines are constantly being drained of health and forced off the field by just
and a Razorback that's going to give him some much needed DPS and on the field reinforcements.
And because of Orc's struggles with anti-vehicle, this Razorback is going to allow him to push back a significant deal. As you can see from map control right now, Pega's really hurting. But with this Razorback, it's going to allow his scouts to not have to retreat in the first sight of danger, allow him to keep his tactical marines on the field more, and really support his troops. However, the Beamy Def Gun goes, yeah,
one
Beamy
shot and half health gone with the Razorback, not even a rear armor hit. So Pega's gonna have to play this very defensive. There goes smoke grenade to try to shield it from any sort of damage. But this also means now the mech boy can't be used to suppress, and Pega knows this. It looks like he's going to push in and reclaim his lands now. He is the Emperor's Fury.
Yes. And although this Beamy Def Gun is excellent at even chasing, just with a teleport, no setup, attack, you're right. It's a huge win for Pega to force that Def Gun off the field, at least momentarily. As long as he can keep this Razorback alive and Smaet is relying on that Def Gun as his only form of AV, then he'll be completely fine. Ooh,
especially with the close-up teleport like that. Will the Force Commander close in time? Yes, and he gets the single off.
And we see Storm Boys jumping in and the Orc Horde moving up. Pega's just going to pull back that Razorback a bit, not really take any losses, and just bleed these squads with this Razorback. Or he's going to unload the squads in front of... Okay, he wisely puts them back in the transport. Meanwhile, we've got the scouts capping up the map, and Shootas capping up the other side. So, really nice play by both players, just keeping squads constantly moving along the rec points on both the right and left extremities of the map.
Yeah, this map is especially good for ninja capping. There's plenty of little holes in the line of vision from your enemy's cap territory that you can, you know, mess with them and show up out of nowhere. Missile launcher on one of the tactical squads. With the Sergeant upgrade, that's going to allow them to deal with the war truck a little bit better.
Yeah.
That also significantly lowers their anti-infantry capability.
And you see at this point that Pega's probably just getting angry at this war truck. So, throwing down the missile launcher, which you usually don't want to do in SM versus Orcs, because you've got to have those attacks ready for knobs come T3.
And now Pega's in a spot of trouble with 96 VPs to Smaet's 420.
Down to 93, 92, and he is counting down. Although, I want to say he's in a spot of trouble, but this seems to happen to every SM player, where you just get really down on VPs before finally making a turn in the game. And Pega's definitely not out of it yet. He's got a Power Fist, interestingly enough, going down on his Force Commander. That's
Battle Cry, Power Fist Battle Cry does a lot of AoE damage, which is especially useful against Orcs and Storm Boys, especially, and the ability to slow/stun a vehicle, combined with the armor of Alacrity, that's going to allow him to deal with this war truck even easier. And you get a cool sync kill with it, so, you know, that's a little bit of a plus.
Exactly. I'm a huge fan of Power Fist, so this is a very good call from Pega. Meanwhile...
Orc sluggers, he says. No, slugger. Thank you. We see Vanilla Ice leading the tacticals.
Oh, you still have your mods on, don't you?
But big push in the middle by Smaet and his advanced target shredding the war truck, but these stick bombs are going to get off on time, dealing massive damage to them.
Down to 45 HP. And meanwhile, this Beamy Def Gun just constantly forcing this Razorback back. Usually you want to be doing the delicate kiting dance with the Orc forces and doing attrition damage, but I gotta hand it to Smaet. He's really minimalized the damage that this Razorback's been able to inflict, besides the fact that it forced him to upgrade the Beamy Def Gun instead of just the Def Gun.
Indeed, and Pega moving his scouts in squads of 2 now, just one with the shotgun to be able to force off squads right before they retreat. 2 with the shotgun now, that's going to allow him to deal with that sluggers pretty decently.
And it's interesting to see shotguns in Tier 2. I know Pega's a big fan of this.
Ooh, and nades. Nades.
This is going to be beautiful, except for the fact there's a war truck there. He's got to run.
Need to move the Razorback up to support, but the Beamy Def Gun is there, and he's trying to get behind the shotgun. No! There goes the Razorback.
No. Razorback down.
Devastators lost their ride. I think they might cry.
Yeah, now they have to walk everywhere.
Space
And we
Marines
all.
don't walk.
What would you suggest they do instead? I mean, it appears to me that they are moving their legs and moving around the
They
terrain.
hover.
Ooh,
Ooh,
and more
more truck
truckies
down
too.
as well.
Oh, they hover. So basically, you glitched out the game with your mods.
No, you're wrong.
Okay, okay. All right, Smaet going T3. As soon as you see, as soon as that Razorback goes down, he goes back to the Def Gun. And Pega really hasn't added any squads in Tier 2 besides that Razorback. So he's going to still have a touch of trouble countering the constant suppression of this Telly net. So as he, and he teleports in and just starts lighting the Force Commander up. Although the Force Commander is just going to walk up and start punching him, because that's how he does things.
My face is my shield.
His fury is his sword.
Or power fist in this case. But another great thing about keeping his forces his heavy tier 1 is that he forces his opponent to adapt to Force Commander down. His face shield was not enough apparently, and Tack's gonna retreat right into the slug of blob. That's deadly.
And Lockgar, we see a Dreadnought coming out for Pega. This is perfect.
What I was saying is keeping his force all tier 1 and upgrading them a heavy tier 1 force Smaet to counter him with his unit choices, and now he's able to bust out something this late into the game that Smaet is not prepared for. He's not expecting any real walkers and all. He saw the Razorback, but mostly just been infantry. So I guess he thinks that maybe Terminators are coming, or something like a Librarian Terminator Plasma Dev combo or something like that, but definitely not a Dreadnought. He's not even close to being prepared for the Dreadnought.
Yep. I mean, he can really all he can do right now is just upgrade that Beamy Def Gun back up again. And he's saving for, I would assume, knobs. That's what every single Orc player goes for. But, yes. So, this Dreadnought has hit the field. And it'll be interesting to see how Pega uses it. Pega's been a big fan of Dreadnought since Dawn of War 2 Vanilla Beta. So, he's got a bit of experience throwing that sucker down.
Indeed, and you'll see his economic state is really hurting him. He has one tack squad with one bottle. He just can't afford to reinforce it right now. Stormboy's flying in and try to get to the Devastator, but the Shotgun Scouts are going to suppress and probably nade them. Nope. But the Dreadnought is now seen forcing off both the shooter squads. Stormboy is retreating as well. Tack's being engaged by this normal Def Gun, and looks like the scouts are going to be able to knock him back or just deal enough damage. Tactical Sergeant gets a sick kill off there. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, love that Tactical Sergeant. But at this point,
also these three scout opening to only alive now will allow him to repair this Dreadnought quite well with those two squads.
Yep. And also, having two shotguns out is really going to help against, say, I don't know, the knobs that Smaet just built. With all those forms of knockdown combined with the Dreadnought's insane melee damage.
As well as the Hammer of the Emperor, or Fist of the Emperor knockback ability, and more Devastators coming out to add to the suppression that will really complement the Dreadnought well, allowing the Dreadnought to get into melee.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Pega hasn't seen the knobs at this point, so he's just blind countering at this point, which is a safe thing to do. It's just not in the metagame right now for Orcs to go heavy tier 2. It's just not viable. So inevitably knobs or tanks will be hitting the field, and with that last cannon upgrade, it's pretty safe.
Oh man, Stormboy's just getting dominated. Tactical's forced to retreat. Stormboy knob goes on. Frenzy's popped on the knob skull out to get in, but the shotgun blast knocks him that back, and now they're getting suppressed by the Devastator. The Dreadnought is on them.
Ooh, and Rocks! Rocks coming down. Immediately wipes the Devastator squad, but other than that, it's not going to do as much damage.
Okay,
Meanwhile,
so
Smaet,
that Devastator won the most manly award. He knew the rocks were coming. He knew it, but he continued to fire upon the green skin horde and eliminate the Xenos.
Step backwards. And we see the Fist of the Emperor going down, and this squad is in trouble. With that Force Commander there, it goes down. It's
Sink kill to the
interesting.
last member. That's brutal.
Indeed. It's interesting to see how Pega's using this Dreadnought. He's not like just charging it in as a line breaker, as many players do. He's kind of using it in more of a linebacker form to just guard his Devastators and other ranged units from the melee mass of Smaet. And it's working extremely well. We've got the Force Commander extending upwards just for that quick decap, and these Shudas are going to have some difficulty forcing off this Force Commander, despite the fact that there are two of them, if he ever gets unsuppressed.
He is
And
level 4 Force Commander at this point.
Yeah, some nice leveling going on there.
His scouts are level 3, his attacks are level 2, his Devastator's level 1, because his veteran battle brothers sacrificed themselves for the good of mankind. And Fist of the Emperor is just being popped, or some sort of crowd control whenever Frenzy's on, and that bleeds the time down enough that now the Dreadnought can go in and deal their damage and drop pod?
Yeah, it's got to be drop pod. He's not tier 3 yet. And this is an intelligent use of drop pod. Just getting those scout reinforcements, and because Smaet was depending on wearing down those squads, he really overextended his knobs that go down. And Smaet's just trying to push his advantage, and it's just Stick Bomb is trying to run with 20 health, and they go down. You've got Storm Boys jumping around, but they only have power melee, so they're not going to be able to take down this Dreadnought. So effectively, Pega has won at this point. Smaet has no counters with his Dreadnought, and that Dreadnought is, in turn, just absolutely wrecking all of the... Ooh, Storm Boys go down, case in point, wrecking all the forces. And yeah, at this point, Pega is just fighting for the glory of the Emperor.
Another thing you have to keep in mind is melee dreads inspire nearby allied troops to increase their damage in turn, so by keeping those scouts in the battle, they were dealing massive damage with their shotguns. And drop pod, for 100 requisition, he could reinforce all of his models, 200 red, 100 requisition. You're never really short of red when you're fighting fighting orcs as SM. And towards the end, he couldn't even afford tactical reinforcements. He could just drop a drop pod, use the hammer of the Fist of the Emperor and the shotgun blast to delay melee squads, and then by the time that those wore off, the drop pod would have dropped and his tacticals would have been in full force.
Excellent play on Pega's part, and Smaet as well. However, Lockar, from your perspective, what could Smaet have done differently to counter what Pega busted out in late tier 2?
First of all, hammer knobs. I noticed they weren't really upgraded for a while, including that first engagement. Second of all, he should have retreated earlier. He had the VP advantage. Overextended his forces is what sealed the deal, because he has an advantage, and it's a quite large advantage. It's 169 VPs, and you can't rebuild your forces in that time, but you can reinforce your forces in that time.
So squad preservation coming down to be the deciding factor for the game.
I think so. It could have gone either way up until the point that he lost his Knob squad, because he could have, even afforded probably a looted tank maybe, which would have allowed him to deal with the Dreadnought a little bit better.
Oh yeah. And speaking of unit preservation, kudos to Pega. Besides losing that Devastator Heavy Bolter to that Rock Strike and that Razorback to a teleporting Mech Boy, the only squad he lost from his massive tier 1, it was a scout squad. So that really shows off his skill as a player and his ability to micro and macro all over the map.
Just thought of something else, but I forgot what it was now. Dang it.
Waiting for you to bestow the insights, and you just let me down.
Yeah, apparently. Dang, what was it? I'm pretty sure it was a really good insight too. Oh yeah, Bomba Boys against the Scouts. The Scouts kept, kiting around. He could have used the Suicide Bomba Boys to deal a lot of damage, especially since they were half health a lot of the time.
Yeah, that would have been a huge
especially in
plus.
retreat paths, because it does damage and knockback in retreat paths, which can be devastating against Space Marines, and maybe even a Weird Boy, because, Zap. Especially against a heavy tier 1, Zap.
Oh yeah, Zap is devastating. Anyways,
So I think that's it from.
that's it from us. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be signing off now.